Time for Type 40, extra Type 40 here exclusively on the Type 40 channel with me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. Welcome back. Yeah, this is Type 40 Extra, before show, after show, and in between show to the podcast and live streams and everything else that we put out here under the Type 40 name, just for you. And on this one, what are we going to get into? Yeah, because sometimes they're just quick chats, aren't they, about various things that are happening out there in the Whovians. Sometimes they're deep dives on contentious topics of the day where we just have to get on our soapbox and get stuck into it, don't we? Sometimes they're unboxings or reviews, previews of merchandise. Whatever we feel like basically, it's this is where it comes at you exclusively here. And this time, I've got help. I've got one of the crew back from holiday. Sarah's here. Yes, Sarah, you all right?
Hello, Dan. Hello, Type 40 people. Yes, I'm back off holiday, and no sooner have I come back that you've picked me up with a time scope, and here we are.
Whisked you away. Yeah, so where were you holidaying this time?
I went to the very glamorous Skeg Vegas. I had a lovely week. Took the weather with us. And yeah, it's been absolutely lovely.
I wasn't sure, because you say Skeg Vegas, but there is only one place that claims to be the Las Vegas of Britain, isn't it? I'm sure we're going to mention that a little bit as we get stuck into this. We've been scrolling the view screen, as always, checking out the fixed points and the not so fixed points, Sarah, what's going on out there, what's coming out more appropriately, and who is behind it all. And we found the dead centre of this one is a friend of the show, back on Type 40 yet again with another new project. We've got John Collier back, Sarah.
Hi, guys.
Hello, John. Lovely to see
mate.
you.
And you. And it's great to be back. Thanks for asking me on again, Dan.
You've popped up yet again with another new project, but I thought you could help us out really, because I've got this picture. We always have a TARDIS of the week really on this show, and this time the TARDIS has pitched up somewhere. You must know where this is.
You're pulling on my heartstrings already. Look at that.
Oh.
So this brings back lots of memories for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's my happy place, as you know. And weirdly, because we're 3 years on now since the first book, Blackpool Remembered. So I can't believe we've had 4 books now in 3 years, which is an amazing achievement. But it all started with that place, and there's 3 of them you can see. We've got Blackpool Remembered, Revisited, and then our latest one that came out earlier this year, which was Longing for Longlit. So yeah. Exhibition, fun and madness as ever.
And it all started for you here, didn't it? Just off the Golden Mile in Blackpool. You had family there, didn't you? And you pretty much grew up staring out of a window into this place, the original Doctor Who exhibition in Blackpool, and longing to spend every moment you could in there. That was how it was for you, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I was so lucky. We lived in Stoke, but my uncle he had a B&B in Blackpool. My cousin, who's just a little bit older than me, I'd go up and stay with them, and yeah, we'd just literally be hanging around that place as much as possible for as many hours as possible.
Oh, so envious, John. So envious.
I've been speaking to this guy now for how long's it been, John? It's been 3 years, hasn't it? It's got to be 3 years here and there. And every time he does get all misty-eyed. It's ever so touching. But yeah, you're the originator, weren't you? Yourself and Alex Story behind these 2 original ebooks, Blackpool Remembered and then Blackpool Revisited. How many downloads on each of these now, John? Off the top of your head, any idea?
We're somewhere in that we're not far off with all of them to about 20k.
Oh, fantastic!
It's absolutely crazy. So we've done incredibly well. I mean, it's all around the world as well. I mean, Alex is your stat guy, but basically, yeah, they have been downloaded in Timbuktu and other places. Yeah.
And you're back with another project, aren't you? Well, this is your second this year, but this one in particular, it is something slightly different, isn't it? And it's not so much a location as a person with this new project. And to help us get into it and talk about it and to talk about him, we've got 2 personal friends of the man in question. So I've got to bring on, we've got Kevin Taylor and Ian Taylor. I think there's no relation. Is that right, guys? No relation?
No relation at all.
No, but a long time good friends.
Yes, that's fair enough to say.
Okay, so yes, I'm not sure what's happened. What's happened with Sarah there? She must still be around. So yes, John, this is a brand new project from you, isn't it? And it's under the Blackpool Remembered banner, a Blackpool Remembered special, all in tribute to this gentleman. This was Stuart Glazebrook, isn't it? And here he is, stood in the doorway, isn't it, of the Blackpool exhibition itself there, with that very distinctive console in the background, and he's very sort of golden, isn't he, there, and resplendent, as if he's just sort of stepping out of the panopticon or something like that. But yeah, so I wanted to know, really, how has this project come about? Who was Stuart Glazebrook?
So for me, I mean, Stuart, and I do mention this in the special that's coming out, was the absolute inspiration for wanting to do any of the books in the first place, because in the distant days when there wasn't an awful lot on the internet about Blackpool, and certainly not a lot in print about Blackpool, the few things I could find, and this is where Kevin comes in really, was on his excellent Hyde Fundraisers website, which was dedicated to not just Blackpool, but Longleat as well. So a celebration of the exhibition is on there. Lots of the photographs were copyright Stuart Glazebrook, and there were 2 floor plans as well from 76 and 75, which were copyrighted to Stuart. So I knew this name. I'd seen these kind of photographs of Stuart hanging around, often dressed up as some kind of character from the series. And so he was a bit of an enigma. And I didn't realize that actually, I thought I'd never met him, but I did meet him once, because when David Tennant turned on the Blackpool Illuminations back in, was it 2007? Yeah, August 2007. I went past the Blackpool Museum, as was then the second exhibition in Blackpool. Yeah. And this guy was dressed as a blue scarecrow and doing these sort of these poses behind me as I had my picture taken. And it's only more recently that I found out, when I was speaking to Stuart, actually, that he was inside the costume, which is just bonkers, isn't it? Just bizarre. So we did meet, but we never spoke. We spoke later on the phone when he agreed to contribute to the first book, and he sent me lots of his artwork. But it did all start with Stuart. I can't say that enough, really, because he was this absolute inspiration for me. A guy who was almost like a legend. And so when I heard the sad news that he passed away, I just had to do something. I had to mark his talent and his story, and with the help of these 2 guys and others, his close friends, we've pulled something together I think that is quite special.
So Stuart Glazebrook, he was one of the original people that were there at the birth, wasn't he, at several things in Doctor Who history, the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, and that original Doctor Who exhibition, John, I gather.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you know, what we've done with this particular special, I've had to divide it into 3 sections to try and make some sense of, all the amazing things that he did. So section 1 is, we've called it Stuart Remembered, which is where you get these personal stories and anecdotes from the likes of Kevin and Ian and others who've contributed to that section and sent in sort of personal photographs as well. And then the second section is all about the exhibition experience. And I've called it that because it brings together all of Stuart's photographs, his some of the artwork that's related to Blackpool, the artwork that's related to the first conventions that took place in the 70s, Panopticon, etc. There's things in there like his exhibition reports from certain years. So that's section 2. Then section 3 is literally a celebration of all the amazing artwork that he did, not just Doctor Who, because he did dip into things like The Prisoner and Blake 7, Jeremy Anderson shows, stuff like that. So we've split it so that we can really showcase the best of what Stuart was like as a man, as an artist, as a Doctor Who fan. And I'm hoping people will like what we've done.
Stuart's contribution to these books, it must have been invaluable to you then, as somebody who was there as it was all going on. And it does seem that he meticulously archived various things. And then there's all that artwork. I'll be honest, when I saw you were doing this, I'd never heard the name Stuart Glazebrook before. And then when I looked into it, Kevin, when I put his name into Google and read a couple of articles, because there were some great tributes, weren't there? Some very moving tributes to this man. when he passed away in May, from people like John Freeman at the Down the Tubes website and things like that. And I thought, that rings a bell. You know, Sarah, in Doctor Who, we think, oh, does that connect to that? And then you think the penny drops, maybe I do know that name, or I know the tag on some artwork, that kind of thing. So, Kevin, this gentleman, obviously you must have known him for a very, very long time. Here I am. I've been in the Doctor Who fandom for several decades as well, but I'm only just finding out and working out that, he was that guy, but he was also that guy and that guy and that guy. But he was a personal friend of yours, I gather, wasn't he, for many, many years?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going in the order of chronology, he's a friend to Ian before me, to be fair. And I only got to know Stuart more intimately through Ian. And that's how we got involved with Hyde fundraisers and doing the costuming for us. But I do remember visiting the exhibition and seeing costume characters in the past, in the 70s when I went. And I think he was one of them at the time there. And I'd seen pictures popping up everywhere. And I think I mainly knew him as an artist before his connection to the exhibition. I had one of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society booklets called Amazing Journeys. And there's a piece of artwork he did there of Leela and a Vought robot on the cover. And when I actually met him, he hadn't actually seen a copy of that. So I give him my copy. So that was quite a nice thing. But no, I think probably Ian takes the story up initially, and then that will link into me, I suppose. So Ian, how did it all start?
Well, I was part of a little group called the Bolton Doctor Who local group in the 80s, a membership of 5, and we knew nobody or knew little. We had the Revenge of the Cyberman video cassette, and there was talk that the Brain and Morbius would be out shortly. And Stuart got in touch with me through the DWAS and said, "Hi, I just live down the road in Atherton." Which was 7 miles away. And he said, we have a little group here. There's myself, there's Drog, which is Drog Langdon, who was another of the original artists for the DWAS. Steve Ballon, who was another costumer at Blackpool with Stuart, and John Bock. And he listed their interests. All began with drinking, but Doctor Who featured second, followed by The Prisoner and Jerry Anderson and da-da-da. And he said it would be great to meet up. We were going to have a mini convention. We'd invited the Liverpool group, the Manchester group, everybody. I just dislocated my arm, and so I got it in plaster. And Stuart was invited. He was going to bring the videos because he's got these underground videos that we wanted to watch, you know.
Ooh.
And so we waited for everyone.
The kind that you had to watch with the curtains drawn in.
That's the one that would jumpy up and down, black and white, all sorts. The good ones, you know. And so we awaited the arrival of Stuart, or in fact anybody. Nobody turned up at all. We ended up renting the Brain and Morbius 50-minute edition from the local video house and sat bored with it. And I was mad. I was angry. You know, this was our first big event. And so I actually rang him. I just rang him up and said, you know, where were we? He says, "Oh, we were hungover." I thought, well, that's a reasonable excuse. In those days, that was a good excuse for me. And so I was very cheeky, and I said, "Look, I'd love to see some old Doctor Who. Could I come down and see you?" And he said, "Well, when were you thinking?" I went, "Tonight." So and I drove down to see him. And after somewhat of a delay, because he got roadworks shutting the road about 10 feet from his house, so I went on a 5-mile detour to get to him. And I went in his house, and he took me into his front room, and it was a Doctor Who shrine. I'd never seen anything like this before, you know.
And Ian, how old would Stuart have been at the time?
He was 29. He was 29. He'd done with his days. He'd finished with the exhibition. He was there in the 70s and maybe just spilling into the 80s, but he'd not been for a good period of time. We'd met in 84 and we became friends, and I started to go around and regularly see him. In 85, I then was at the exhibition, the Blackpool exhibition, every weekend for in costume. I love that picture you put up there because I remember very chilly, rainy days, stood in the latex and fiberglass outside that, and I got Stuart. That's the one. Oh, brilliant. And Stuart knew I was going, and so he did come back on a number of weekends to don a costume again, which was great for him to
Back
come
in the
back into that.
trenches.
Absolutely. And we thought, this is good. We're going to do this for the next years ahead, decade. And it closed in November, never to reopen.
We can laugh about it now, can't we, John? We can no, we'll come back to John later. No, he's in bits, the poor bloke. Look at him. Look at his
We were all in bits.
But
anyway, so we were looking for different outlets for Doctor Who thing. We were doing filming projects. We were going potholing together, caving. We were drinking together, and
At the same time,
all at the same time, often. And then I think one of the first events, Kevin and didn't we do an event in Crewe around 85? That would be me and you, and through that, I think then Stuart got introduced to yourself through the filming, I think. Is that right, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, we used to do a lot of messing around with the camera, doing our little fan films. And that really was because I'd met a group of people during my years of going to the exhibition. And that was another great thing about Blackpool. Blackpool was the birth of Hyde Fundraisers. And I will always see it as the home of Hyde Fundraisers because when we started, it was everyone that I'd met over the period of going to the exhibition. That's how we all got started. We're all common fans. We all enjoyed the series. A couple of the guys were making their own costumes. So that was inspiring me to make cardboard K9s and cardboard robots.
There was something, Kevin, wasn't there, about that location on the central promenade there? It was practically, it was sort of like Wembley Stadium for Doctor Who fans.
It was a magnet. It was a magnet, and on many occasions, I mean, I was only in my late teens, but I would go on my own on the coach to Blackpool, get the coach down, get the coach on my own back. Unheard of probably these days that you'd have a young teenager going alone to places, but it was just like magical for me. I really look forward to it. It was the highlight of my week to go to Blackpool, to see people that I knew because it was a regular crowd that used to get there. Ian used to go quite regular, along with some other friends of mine like Colin and Nigel Peaver and many other people. We all just got together as a group, and when the exhibition closed, we carried on seeing each other, and we did the films. But then one year we thought we'd do a bit of fundraising, so we had the costumes. We came down, went in a town centre, shaking a tin, and that was the start of us doing the fundraising, really, and the costuming. So Stuart, after we met, I connected him obviously to the artwork side first of all, but then realised about the history with the DWOS and the fact that he had this massive archive of Doctor Who exhibition images, which prompted me to come up with the idea of setting up an exhibition website, which John was inspired by. So I'm glad that it had this positive effect.
It's all connected. It does seem to be that whatever was going on with Doctor Who at various points in Doctor Who fandom's evolution, when people were scrambling to sort of meet up and connect and compare stories about the things that they remembered. Because when DWAS came together, that was in 1976, wasn't it? That the DWAS opened, and I know that Stuart was there, wasn't he? He was very much in the centre of that, up to all sorts. But stories weren't commercially available, were they? Memories were what each individual could compare with one another, and you would share the stories about, what about in this one? I remember it this way, and other people would remember it a different way. And it sounds like Stuart was a major player in that. He was born in 1953, wasn't he? So he was 23 when DWAS was born. Whereas I would imagine that a lot of the other members were probably younger. We've got this picture here, and this is credited to Kevin John Davies, and this shows Stuart there. Now, put an arrow down to Stuart. But I spot several Doctor Who faces there. There's Jeremy Bentham, Ian Levine, he's there too. I think that could be David Howe in the background, and various other people. But there he is, right in the thick of it. There's a TARDIS, there's an Emperor Dalek, there's some great kipper tyres. But this was the birth of Doctor Who fandom, Sarah. This is where it came from.
It's just beautiful to see.
That's Drog Langdon on the right-hand side of the Dalek, just by the head, just peering over there. That was Rog. So he lived close by, and and Stuart sported a can of Heineken. It looks like.
Oh my God! I've just recognised another friend of the show. That's Keith Barnfather on the front row.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Looking a little bit like Peter Davison there.
yeah.
He was the one, Dan, who actually organised that first convention. So the first
Yeah.
convention was in a church hall in Battersea, 77. 200 fans, was it, something? The next year, it went to Imperial College in Kensington, much posher, and was about 500 fans, I think. And again, Keith was behind it. Jeremy Bentham was part of the organisation team. And yes, Stuart was... a big part he played within it was, and this is in the special, by the way, we've done quite a bit on these two events, was obviously like dressing the venues and artwork everywhere, designing the posters and the souvenir brochures and all that sort of thing. So yeah, very much, as he was called in those days, he was the art department, just one man, the arts department of DWAS. But obviously people like Dragan would also contribute. So yeah, I mean, absolutely incredible, isn't it? This is the start of something. This is the beginning of a real era, right here in this photograph. It's incredible.
One of the things he moved on to as well was working with Jeremy on the Cybermark services, the space and time releases. And it was when I was getting to know him, they were just moving to colour. Now, Stuart worked at a printers called Merbros in Atherton, and they got the commission to print the colour covers for the John Pertwee covers, if you will. So these are the ones. That's one.
It was sort of like a fan-made. It was kind of like a fan-made part work, wasn't it? Where each issue would cover an individual story, and it ran in order too. It went in broadcast order.
It did, and I mean, if you wanted detail in those days, that this was the thing to subscribe to. You know, I mean, these days, I mean, we have too much information sometimes on some of the subjects. But Jeremy had done a meticulous job of researching, you know, everything. And then these covers were on. The boys were doing them. They were still. Stuart loved these pens, these pencils, and things. And talking to his daughter Vicky, she remembers as a child being fascinated watching her dad create these images through the dotting process with pens, and she'd just watch it for an hour as it came to life in front of her, you know, just by this technique. And those art skills, I mean, it's in the genes. Both she draws and her brother Gary also draws as well, and it's come natural to them. You know, he was a brilliant you know, he accurately portray, you know, I mean, this is before the days of computers and things, you know. This was a blank piece of paper.
Yeah, with a rotring pen. Although he was inspired, I understand. He'd grown up, obviously, in the 50s and the 60s, hadn't he? Reading adventure comics. He was inspired by the likes of Frank Bellamy and Jerry Haylock on various titles, and particularly Chris Achilleus, who obviously in 1973 had kicked off the Target book range with those unmistakable, very distinctive covers, and that very same technique, hadn't he?
He had, yeah. I mean, those were his gods on pedestals, you know. And he did this for a time, and then I don't know. He tended to put them down when they went into the colour. They did one or two of the. I think Drog continued to do some of the colour Pertwees, but Stuart has always been a child of the black and white. You know, and I think he sort of thought there was more artists coming up. Phil Bevan was around, Tony Clark, you know, all talented people, and they were all contributing, you know. So it took the pressure off it, because if you look at the amount of work that Stuart did,
the volume of it,
immense.
A regular magazine I know it was only a 10, 15 page magazine every month, wasn't it? But still, when somebody's got other things going on in their life, and I do get the impression that Stuart's part of DWAS. I mean, I suppose, John, if he was a one-man art department, of course it was in his best interest to bring other people forward. But it does seem that he was a very encouraging man, somebody who believed in opening things up and inspiring people. Go on.
One of the things he used to do for DWAS each year was in their yearbook, which they published, he did his own art report. So he'd do a sort of review of the last 12 months. And he would often say, you know, he would pick out particular people and talk about why he loved their artwork so much. So he was absolutely about encouraging others as well. And it's really interesting with this particular series because, as Ian's just said, it gets to a point where he does less of them, and it is very much about those sort of 60s serials that he'd obviously seen when he was younger. But yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things that we've had a conversation around, Ian, is you looking through all of the original artwork and scanning it for the special that we put together. And I was lucky enough to receive a package when I was writing Blackpool Remembered from Stuart. He sent through this brown envelope, which was full of original artwork, all relating to the Blackpool exhibition. And when you see these things close up, and you see, the eraser smudge marks, you see the bits where he's put lettering over things, he's ripped things off, and there's, he's ruined parts of the artwork in doing so to make the covers for the magazines, etc. But the detail and that dotty technique that he used is staggering, Ian, isn't it? It's absolutely.
It is. I mean, is it the cover for the developing art with the TARDIS and this? I mean, I sent you basically what I found with that, and it's not just someone sitting down and creating this in one go. There were many attempts and many different versions of this, and little patches of pieces of artwork which he thought I might include that, or I might include that, and it all culminates in this fantastic piece. He spent a lot of hours doing it. It was. I think it probably ultimately it took the pleasure out of it almost, I think, ultimately, which is why he was very happy to hand the reins over to others. But when his company printed the colour covers, and they would come to us on a massive sheet, and we would have a Wednesday night of discussing these ones in detail, as whether we like the Frontier in Space one better than the Planet of the Daleks, and they were. He appreciated other people's art, equally to his own. I think particularly Phil Bevan, and it was I got a book off David Howe about 2 weeks before Stuart died of the artwork of Phil Bevan, a brilliant book that they put together, and I was going to take it to him the following week, but he fell too ill to see it. I'm sure he would have absolutely loved it.
Yeah, Phil's work was very distinctive, and so was Stuart's. I mean, there's various pieces from his run in these fanzines, John, that I haven't got any issues of these, but I've seen them reproduced in other places. They kind of lived on, Sarah, in the fandom, and whilst it's very clear who inspired Stuart with this, you can see that this is a man of immense creativity and passion and skill too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the detail, and these black and white pictures they're just gorgeous. And
it has to be said that Scarrison is far better than the televised version.
Well, I wasn't going to say it, but yeah.
I would have been behind the couch if I'd have seen that on.
It was.
But this is the romance, isn't it, of these stories which were on fleetingly on television during the 60s and the 70s. We had no idea if we were ever going to get to see them again. Any of us, you guys in the fandom there at the time, and we certainly had no idea that they were being junked. Any of them, that we definitely wouldn't see any of them again.
It just showed you the hold it had in fans' imaginations even back then. It was.
It inspired young artists. Yeah.
He actually referenced Chris Achilleos' work in one of his illustrations. It'd be quite clever, really. The sort of you've probably seen the photograph of Patrick Troughton where he's holding the 500-year diary.
Yes.
In one of the stories, where he replaced the 500-year diary with a copy of Achilleos'. Which one was it? One of the Cybermen stories, and he put that in the Doctor's hands instead. Very clever. It was almost, there's that little wink and a nod that, I know what I'm doing here. I appreciate this person's artwork. Let's put it into one of my own pieces. And what I
noticed, John, because I'm not just an artist, I'm a graphic designer as well, just as Stuart clearly was. I notice the way that he's sort of telling a fragment of the story quite often, using various techniques. Like we've got the torn out page here on a piece that goes with that'll be with Power of the Daleks, wouldn't it? Vulcan, the planet Vulcan. So it's little things like that that bring the story, extra parts of the story to life.
Yeah, and he ended up doing a series which he called the Doctor Who Vistas as well, which were again they would take just one particular scene from a serial, and he'd focus in on that. And the great thing about section 3 of the special is I've tried to present it in a way where it is literally just trying to get you as close to the original artwork. Ian's scans that he's done are such high quality. You do get a real sense of, the detail in them, as Sarah was saying there, the incredible effort and hard work that's gone into them. So, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping people really get to see those in their full glory, really.
So give us some idea then, Ian, about the process that you've put this artwork through. How was it supplied to you? Was it on A4 cartridge paper or sometimes larger? And what do you have to do to it to get this artwork looking its very, very best? Because it does sound like what we're getting here in ebook form is largely, a good chunk of it is an art book.
It was literally, as I say, we helping Vicky to start to sort out a few things at Stuart's house, and we came across a number of publications, and then a big sort of bin liner, essentially.
Yeah.
I thought, what's in this? Opened it up, and here was Stuart's original pieces of work. So we left everything alone for a bit, and I was in conversation with Gary, who's the eldest son, and I said, look, we want to do this publication. John Collier had mentioned John and said this would be a great tribute to your dad. And is it possible to borrow these for a period of time? And he said, yeah, absolutely, sure. He says, I've had a look through, they are fantastic. He says, so I literally just went down one day during the week, picked them up and scanned them. I've got quite a nice high quality scanner, and did them the best we could. Sometimes I had to patch them together because they were bigger than the actual flatbed, but we got them done and sent them on John, because I didn't know we don't know what's going to happen to a lot of his stuff. Stu was a hoarder and had a lot of things, scratch built models of Jerry Anderson, all sorts of things. Very, very creative guy, and we don't know what's going to happen to him. I suspect now that the children will hold on to those pieces of artwork because they are something special, very unique.
So this ebook of art and memories and photography and everything else, it's being published, isn't it, John, this very weekend in your time-honoured method, as has been so successful for you with the Blackpool and Longleat titles. So how many, but obviously the page count of those books is astronomical, isn't it? What's the page count on this? And when you're given this stuff by Ian and other contributors, how sensitively did you go through? Did you have any limits? Did you have a page count in mind, or were you just waiting to see what you'd get and then make it from there? Really, build it from there.
There was no sort of. I didn't put a limit on it. I was just trying to gather as much as I could. I didn't want to miss any pieces out because people do have the favourites, don't they? And certainly if you Google him, lots of images will come up that we're quite familiar with now. So getting the emails from Ian, getting scans of magazines from other people as well, from copies that I'd not seen before, inside covers, tiny little illustrations, just trying to gather the whole lot together, really, and trying not to miss anything as far as possible. That just the book just grew naturally out of that, just including more and more and more of the artwork. In section 3, Stu Art, what I've done is I've tried to do it in chronological order. So it starts with those early Celestial Toy Room, TARDIS fanzines, and then goes through to when in the sort of 80s in Fantasy Empire, the American publication, you start to get some of his artwork reproduced or regurgitated. It's quite funny.
I think that's where I saw some of his work originally. I think he may have produced some Prisoner illustrations for that.
Yes, they are in there as well. But he did send me a note along with the Blackpool artwork, and he put something in about he'd been going through the stuff that he'd used had been used for Fantasy Empire, and he said, I think I made some of it up. I made some of the stories up that I wrote for those, some of the accounts, because it would have been 10 years on. So he was quite honest in his little letter to me. But so I've just tried to get everything as much as possible into the publication. We're talking just over 200 pages. So as ever, it's free to download. I couldn't have done it without the support of the guys on here and others who were all credited in the special, of course, and Stuart's children, because without their say so. So huge thanks to Gary, Vicky, and Paul, because they don't know me. I was trying to do it in a sensitive way. I didn't want to rush through it. It was all down to them saying yes, and then waiting obviously to get some of the things through that I could include. So available as ever through the Blackpool Remembered website. You can also find us on Twitter. There'll be a link in the morning. Alex has gone on holiday, but he does all this stuff. You see, he uploads.
I'll make sure the links are in the description of this video too.
Yeah, fingers crossed it will all upload on time, ready for the big drop tomorrow. And once it's out there, it's out there, and it will be great to see people's reactions. And I just hope I've already had some responses from people who proofread it and stuff saying, "Yeah, I knew Stuart. I was a close friend. This is a really nice tribute," and that's all that I can ask for, really.
So we've heard from Ian and John there, Kevin. As a friend too, and obviously with this project coming to life, a tribute to a friend of decades standing, seeing it all come together. How does that make you feel, and how do you think Stuart would feel about this?
Well, Stuart was very unassuming. We had a 70th birthday celebration for him back in March, and he just takes in his stride and doesn't see why everyone makes a fuss about him, because he never saw himself as anything special, did he? And so he never treated himself above everybody else, and he was very, very quiet and unassuming person, really. But once you got him in a costume, it was a different story. I think one of my contributions that I've said really to John when I sent my piece over was, yes, Stuart's done a fantastic contribution to fandom with what he's done with his artwork, with the DWOS, with bringing Blackpool alive for people in the 70s to enjoy. But the other thing to recognise is he's done a massive contribution to raising money for charity. And over the years, he's dressed up in Cybermen, and obviously in the later days, it was a scarecrow. But Stuart and his wife Christine would turn out for events that they'd help us raise money for children in need and other good causes. And for me, that's such a special thing that he's made that contribution. And that sometimes you sort of see, is that more important than everything else? But when you think it's the person himself, full. I suppose.
I mean, we talk about this quite a lot, don't we, Sarah? Cosplay. What Kevin's describing there is what we now call cosplay, isn't it? To put the costume on and to kind of become the character. It does sound like Stuart was like that.
Yeah. I mean, he did that at Blackpool. I mean, when he dressed up, I'm sure he wasn't walking around in the Cyberman going, "Are you all right, mate?" He was talking like a Cyberman, or if he was a Time Lord, he'd be talking about Gallifrey and the fact they're looking for exiles that have escaped probably the planet. So he put his character into it, and he was very enthusiastic. And I can't sort of thank him and Christine, who also sadly passed away earlier this year, for all the contributions they've done over the years. It's been a massive shock to me, a shock to Ian as well. I mean, I found out by accident that Stuart was ill, because we were talking, because we shared some interest, because I was a Batman fan, and me and Stuart went to see Kevin Conroy, who provided the voice of Batman.
Oh yeah, the legend, yeah.
So we'd gone to the NEC and met Kevin Conroy, and he'd passed away in November, Kevin Conroy, and he just came and he said, "Well, I'm going through my treatments and everything." So it was a bit bizarre. It came across in conversation there. But our other shared interest and passion was Egypt, and him and Christy used to go to Egypt a lot. So we had lots of conversations about Egypt, and I think he's got a massive of Egyptian memorabilia at home as well. So there was lots of sort of things that, again, crossing with Ian with the social side of it, and the fact that he was really, a sociable person to get to know and enjoy being with, and some of the stories he'd tell you. He was very much an entertainer. But no, I think I'd like to definitely acknowledge what contribution he's done for charity as well. And again, never wanted to get thanked for it. He just enjoyed being there, enjoyed being in the character. back in 2005, 2006, when Doctor Who had come back and we'd had the new series, we were getting mobbed at events. And Stuart said to me, it was like being a pop star. He'd have kids asking him for autographs. And it was as big Doctor Who as it ever been at that point. And for him to get mobbed to sign autographs in the Scarecrow, it was a big thrill for him, and he really enjoyed it. So I'm glad that he got that enjoyment out of doing something positive like that.
For everything that Stuart seemed to have been involved in, the dressing up, the fundraising, the artwork, the being there at the beginning of conventions, all these huge things, Sarah, that are now such a massive part of not just Doctor Who fandom, but all fandoms. And this one guy was there. It'd be quite understandable, wouldn't it, if sort of myths built up around this figure? Because when we were talking about this, and I said we were going to speak to John and these gentlemen about this book, and you said, well, who's this guy? Who's it the tribute for? And I said, didn't I? Well, he was the guy. He was the bloke. He's the man in the picture, the smoking Cyberman.
Yes, the legend of the smoking Cyberman.
And we've all seen, there can't be any Doctor Who fans who haven't seen this image. I think it's on a greetings card somewhere. You do see it in the media, in the popular media. And I was under the impression that this was Stuart Glazebrook in this costume, John. And when I said to you, oh, he was the smoking Cyberman, wasn't he? You quickly shot that down in flames, didn't you? So what's the story? If this isn't John, if this isn't Stuart, then who is it? And where did Stuart come into it?
I, like you, believed it all. And it was quite interesting when we wrote the very first book, because I got a pile of photographs from a guy. Well, they were taken by David Beasley, but they came through Kevin John Davis. So Kevin sent them over, and he said, here's some pictures of Blackpool, and they're all taken in 1980, one of the annual events when the guys used to meet up there every year. And there was loads of these pictures, and I talked to him. I said, well, that's Stuart, isn't it? I mean, a cigarette. And he went, no, it's a guy called Mark Sinclair, who was a friend of Kevin's. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And completely, I felt really deflated by the whole thing. So I had to make that clear in the first book. But I did get a story from, and maybe Ian, you might be familiar with this story, that Luke told. Luke Andrew, who said that he was on holiday. Was he over in the east somewhere? Maybe maybe
he was down south.
And he saw he went into sort of sci-fi shop, and there was that picture was in the shop. And the guy had a picture with Stuart holding that particular photograph. Thinking that Stuart was inside it.
Yeah.
So the urban myth continues. There we go. That's
Fantastic.
Never miss a trick here at Type 40, John. You won't know that by now, mate.
This is the thing, that Stuart began. I think he began to believe this urban myth. But I mean, the thing is, Stuart is a consummate professional, and he would never smoke and wear a costume at the same time. He was one, and very much like Kevin says, we make it very clear we never remove any of our helmets. If we're out there, you go off and into the background. You wouldn't be seen drinking, smoking, whatever, or that. But it's a lovely story. But
and you'd suffer for your arty, wouldn't you?
Definitely. But no, he did. He was surprised to see it, and I think he did tell the guy that's him. So it continues. This thing.
But that's all part of the fun. All part of the fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. Yeah. I mean, the thing was, I think what also is mentioned. We're not mentioned Stuart the actor yet. When I cast him in 1984, I said, "Do you want to play the Doctor?" He went, "Absolutely," and he did. It did with a few, and then he played in 3 films, and then Nigel.
Well, all I know about is the Trial of Davros, which was an unofficial play that was put on at a convention in Manchester. But all of this other stuff, I've got no idea about this. So, what else did he play?
He did that in terms of Doctor Who stuff. He did three Doctor Who films. He was a very unconventional Doctor. It has to be said.
He wasn't of this existence, Ian.
Oh yes.
They were all very much ad-libbed, weren't they, Ian?
They were ad-lib. We were ad-lib productions. But one of the other ones he did, which was very good, we remade the Sontaran experiment as the Cyberman experiment, and he played Viral, one of the crew, and he was brilliant on his lines, and his South African accent was wonderful. And then from that, and Kevin will tell you now, he then appeared in. Did he appear in both versions of the Trial of Davros? Kevin? Was he the original one with Michael Wisher?
Yeah, so it came about. We were looking for a prosecutor. We had two prosecutors in the trial because the prosecutor gets assassinated halfway through by a Davros, by a Dalek sympathizer. So Stuart was the first younger prosecutor, and he was acting alongside Gene Rogers, who was from Emmerdale, and our narrator was Michael Jaston, with this lesser-known actor that people never heard of before. And we had this young guy called Michael Wisher in the Davros chair, along with his sidekick, someone called Peter Miles. So imagine acting alongside that sort of talent. It was definitely, I think, a big thrill for Stuart. There he is at the end, next to Gene Rogers. And he really enjoyed it. The other version, by the way, is, as you can see to the left of the screen, which is Keith Noble as the other prosecutor. But yeah, Nigel pulled a great production off for that one, and it was a great thrill to be working with Michael Wisher and obviously some of the other cast people involved. But Stuart, threw himself wholeheartedly into it and really enjoyed it, and I think that was another encouragement for him really to do more fundraiser stuff. But no, I was very pleased to get him on board.
And then when we made the remake of it, and it had inserted video sequences, and so there was he was Jeremy Bullock's twin, wasn't he?
Yes.
Because we had Kevin was filming Jeremy Bullock down in London as the prosecutor, was it?
No. So there's a reference in Genesis of the Daleks where the Doctor's talking about Spacia 17,000, and we decided to make that as a sequence of evidence about the Daleks thwarting this conference to unite against them. So the chairman of the conference was called Chairman Skellen, and we filmed in London Jeremy Bullock as Chairman Skellen. So we went to this church hall, and a guy called Matt Carter did the filming for us. Filmed Jeremy Bullock's whole close-up scenes and everything with the Dalek in London. And then in Bradford at the Museum of Photography, we filmed in a theatre there, the actual conference with aliens in the audience, and standing in for Jeremy Bullock on stage there was Stuart. And from a distance, he's doing all the gestures as though it's Jeremy talking. But yeah, we managed to get Stuart involved somehow.
And it was still my dying memory of that. I'm dressed as an ice warrior at this conference in Bradford, and Stuart's at the front doing these gestures, and they said just speak, so it looks like he's speaking. So he stood to the front of all this galactic conference, going, "A horse is a horse, of course, of course," and we had the whole Mr. Ed introduction.
Lots of ad-libbing, lots of winging it, and just having fun by the sounds of it, Sarah. This is very much what fandom should be about, isn't it?
Does any copies exist of this? I need to see them.
It's who you know, Sarah.
Thank
I might
you.
have some black market copies of the filming anyway, of that particular one. But I think before I do forget to do this, I think I've really got to pay tribute to John for coming up with the idea of doing this special publication and commemorating Stuart really in this way. So John, thank you for contacting us and really getting this project off the ground, because out of anybody, I can't see that there be anybody that would not want to pay tribute to Stuart and everything that is achieved, either with the fundraising, with the artwork, with fandom. So thank you very much, John, for doing all this.
Thank you, Kevin. That's so kind. Thank you. And that means an awful lot to me. And it's so funny because when I found out that he was really poorly, I did send him a message, because we'd been, since 2020, we'd been sending each other these texts and the occasional phone call. Often the texts were about the latest character option figures are out in B&M. Have you been able to track down the latest set? And we were always moaning about the price of these things. And the last time that he actually messaged me was when I started working on Longing for Longlit. And I just want to read his reply, if that's okay. He's got, "Hi, John. Nice to hear from you. I'm fine, thanks. But sorry, I can't help with the next project as I was not there." No one went to Longley's. "Ian Taylor, who helped on your Blackpool book, was there, though. So maybe he can assist." And then he signs off, "Keep in touch, mate." And that was just so poignant when I heard that he was not well and wanted to message him. And so, of course, when I heard the sad news that he had passed away, that something had to happen. There had to be some tribute. There had to be a project that really did bring together those elements I described earlier. You know, the man, the artist, the actor, the costume monster guy, all of that. And I'm just so pleased to have people like Kevin and Ian and others who were really close to him, and the permission of the family to put it together. And as I say, once it's out there, I hope people, download it and enjoy every page of it.
Because every time we've spoken to you, John, you've always described those contributors to your titles as your exhibition army. But I have got the impression that over time that has changed and that you have got closer to the point where it's almost like extended family. So I'm not surprised, knowing you as I do, just through chatting like this, that you would respond. You would respond in this way. Do you know how his family have responded to this, Ian?
I noticed. I've been in touch this week, oddly. Vicky's just got married last week, so she's had other things on. It's been one of those times of ups and downs. But I noticed that when she must have joined one of the groups because she sent the link to download it to her two brothers, Paul and to Gary. I'm sure they're going to be blown away when they see it, and I'm going to be sending them the link to this as well, because I'm sure they'd be interested in listening in as well. Watching.
And a few of the fundraisers are going to be doing an appearance on the 6th of September at a charity event for the Christie in Manchester. So we're doing that pop-up really in tribute to Stuart. And then at some point later this year, the fundraisers will also make a contribution in Stuart and Christine's memory.
If people want to find out more about what the hired fundraisers did then and do now, you've still got this website, haven't you, Kevin? It's very, very active. You're always up to something.
Yeah, I mean, one of our contributions on there, the Blu-ray contribution, we'd have the Sea Devil popping up for the season 9 Blu-ray. Our Davros popped up for season 17 when that came out. We supplied some of the props for the very first release, the season 12 release with Tom. So you'll see a Dalek and a Vogon and a Cyberman behind the behind the sofa section before they changed it to cutouts. We've done stuff on Channel 4 with the It's a Sin, so some of our Daleks were on that.
Oh, yeah.
Blue Pieces. We've got a bit of background stuff over the years, but yeah, that's a great site to find out more about what we do.
Obviously, fundraising was very important to Stuart, very, very clearly, as was Doctor Who. But it does seem, doesn't it, Sarah, when you hear stories like this and you see the smiles on these gentlemen's faces when they talk about a man they'd known for various lengths of time, you can see that it was about friendship, it was about fun, kinship almost. And this is what this show does at its best, isn't it? It does bring people together. It brought you and I together in the same way, didn't it?
Absolutely. And yeah, I love anything about fandom bringing people together. And yeah, it brings the best of people together as well. I mean, like you were saying, the charity work and just getting out there and making people happy. I mean, seeing the children and adults, mobbing Stuart and him having that, such a wonderful feeling. And, and this artwork that's lasted years and years and inspired, younger fans. I mean, it's just absolutely wonderful that you've compiled all this for fans, for people to see. And this is going to, it's going to last forever, really. Yeah, it's just absolutely wonderful.
This is my personal favourite piece of Stuart's. Obviously, I had no idea that it was his work, but I can't even remember where I first saw it, Ian. I know it was decades ago. It may have been when this event was on, because it was to tie in with an exhibition of sorts through the NFT, some sort of arrangement, wasn't it, with the National Film Theatre that the Appreciation Society had?
Yeah, it was before my time as well. Was it towards the end of the 70s, John? Or
I think it was 83. It was like around the 20th anniversary sort of celebration.
Oh, of course, yes, because we've got a cricket match.
And and you probably saw it, Dan. It was reused. There was a colour version that was a cover for Fantasy Empire again.
Oh, really? No, I definitely didn't see that. I've only ever seen it in black and white.
Okay. Well, it's in the special. So
A nice little plug there. I like it, John.
This is the piece, though, as Ian was describing earlier, that we had all sort of 6 different bits of sketches and lists of ideas, what sort of elements you wanted to include in it, and Drog as well did some of the artwork. So together, the pair of them brought all these different elements. They wanted a sort of a prop that represented each of the up to that point the 5 Doctors that there had been. So you can see those on there, the various props related to each Doctor. He wanted this idea of a BBC camera on the right there, but on the left you can see there's a sort of Dalek-like camera as well. And it's just fascinating to read through his handwritten notes what he wanted to put in it. And there was another version that he was going to have a go at as well, which was a sort of a cinema, and on the front row would be the 5 actors who played the Doctor point, and then on the stage would be all the monsters staring back at them. So that was another idea for the cover of the NFT celebration event. But this is the one that they went with in the end. And again, in the book, what you'll see is the sort of 4 or 5 stages of how it goes. I
love stuff like that. It's exactly what I used to do when I was a kid, when I was working on fanzines as well. So yeah, I'll be jumping right on this when it gets published. It'll be out by the time this video is published. So yeah, people are going to want to get their eyes on that. What a creative guy, what a fun guy. Very, very clearly, he's made a big impact on you guys on a lot of fandom. Yeah, I can't wait to see this and to find out everything else that this gentleman got up to during his life and during his fandom too. And no doubt there'll be lots of tributes and things like that in there too, John.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, it will be sitting alongside the other books on Blackpool Remembered, and there's a comment section on that particular website. We always get really nice feedback. It's great to hear what people think, because once it's out there, it's kind of like it's in the ether somewhere, but it is nice to get comments and say what people think about it.
Head over to Blackpool Remembered to get all of these ebooks in your life. There's the Blackpool Remembered, Blackpool Revisited, Longing for Longleat, and that new special in tribute to Stuart's life and Stuart's work, Stuart's connection with Doctor Who, his friendships, and his artwork. It does look absolutely fantastic. We'll make sure that all the links are in the description to this video, so you know exactly where to go for all of this. Same with Alex Storer's latest ebook too, Evolution of the Toy Dalek, another labour of love. There's lots of contributors there. Well, how many is there? There's 6. So there's the secret 7 of them that compiled this together. But this is Alex's very own sort of personal journey with the Daleks, taming the Daleks and whipping his own photography into shape there to catalogue the entire evolution of the simple toy Dalek that so many of us have had in our toy boxes from the 60s right up to the present day. So that's fantastic too. And yeah, you can get the Blackpool Remembered special on Stuart Glazebrook. That's available too. So get them all on your tablet, on the device of your choice, and settle down for an evening. If the weather turns, then yeah, you could be there. You could be there for hours. Everybody could be there for hours. So I know that you've got several other projects in the pipeline, haven't you, John? And I think you did mention the last time you were on. We won't draw you on that just yet, but I know, where's the place that people can go to hear not just about the projects that you've got coming, to get first word on those, but to hear more and to see more about the Stuart Glazebrook book and how that's received over the coming days? Are you on Twitter, Instagram? Where can people find you?
Yeah, on all of those. So we have Twitter, we're Instagram, and we've got the website. And all you need to do is just Google Blackpool Remembered, and all of those links will come up. I think they're the sort of first results when you do that. And yes, we're hoping I think it's due out December the 31st. There's something else coming out this year. So that'll be 3 books in a year. It's getting ridiculous.
Oh, exciting.
Oh, I didn't think he was going to say that. Okay,
You heard it here first.
the Hyde fundraisers, that's carrying on, isn't it, Kevin? What are you up to towards the end of this year? What's going down in Hyde?
Well, we're going to be in South Shields in September, at the end of September at the Word, and then on the 7th of October, we're in Hyde, the spiritual home, you could say, where we first started. And we're going to be doing a little event there. So that's going to have a nice little art exhibition on there. Not Stuart's art. We've got this young lad who does digital art, and he's got some sci-fi art he's displaying. We've got some models by Kevin Davis, not the one that does the Doctor Who stuff, but this is Kevin Davis, a fan who's based in Chester, and he's made all these models, and some of his stuff's on display. Phil Robinson's going to bring some of his masks that he's made, and he's recently worked with MFX on the new Doctor Who specials for November, and also the season 14 with Ncuti Gatwa. So yeah, a few things there. We're dressing up in characters and monsters. Oh yeah, me and Stuart were Batman fans as well, so I'm going to dress up as the Joker at that one on the 7th of October.
In his honour, there.
Well, not necessarily in his honour, but I'll be thinking of him. And we will have Batman there. So yeah. In fact, I'm going to do the Joker, and we've got Batman going for the Christie fundraiser as well, and that was particularly chosen again for Stuart.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us on this show, Kevin.
Thanks
It's delightful to meet you. Ian, how about yourself, mate? Have you got any projects out there in the ether? Anywhere you want to send people to? Anything that you're involved in, or anything that means something to you or meant something to Stuart?
Well, not really. I'll be doing security so that Kevin doesn't get bashed as the Joker, because he looks mean, but he's not really that mean. So yeah, I've had a few health issues at the moment, so I'm going to be taking the rest from costuming, and but I'll help out in the background, the guys and whatever, and continue writing my multi-million-pound autobiography, which I started 12 years ago.
Got a title yet, mate? Got a title for that?
It's called Fantastic.
Very good.
Brilliant. Well, when you finish it, you can come and plug it on this show.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please do.
Go on, John.
I think Sarah's probably on board with this as well.
Yeah.
I think, Ian, you need to open up a little video shop, or get those curtains drawn and invite us all around, and we'll come and watch these movies that you made.
I would. Honestly, I would be there in a heartbeat. That just sounds
Put your name in the chat.
I do.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'll have a talk with Kevin. We might do something for you.
Hang around after the show. I'm sure we can see if we can work something out. If you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the cloister bell. Dingle the cloister bell to get all the notifications about what we're doing next and when we're doing it here on the Type 40 channel. Podcasts, live streams, extra videos, and all manner of other things. We kind of make it up as we go. We know the general idea of what we're doing and when we're doing it, don't we, Sarah? One of us does.
Well, I know what I'm doing. It's just you.
The latest one, though, of course, you can get this into your life. This dropped a couple of days ago now, and this was the latest podcast. It's myself, and you're not on this one, are you, Sarah? Oh, no, you're on the next one. Oh,
I'm on the next one. Yes.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Yes, so you can hear myself, Simon Horton, and the wonderful actor, the first Doctor himself, Stephen Noonan, getting deep into the corners here with Image of the Fendel, a very spooky story from all the way back in 1977, and we give you an in-depth review. It's the longest episode of the podcast
It
ever.
certainly was in-depth, but very, very, very good. I was very impressed.
Bear in mind, Sarah, I did actually edit it as well.
I know you.
Imagine how long the original was. My word. So you don't just get our review of Image of the Fendel. You get a good hour's worth of us talking about Tom Baker, about the Fourth Doctor, and about his biggest ever foe, Mrs. Mary Whitehouse. So you can find that here on the channel. And don't forget to hit the cloister bell to find out what we'll be reviewing next in our 60th anniversary Diamond season of reviews, with a rotating panel there of Doctor Who pundits. Get those into your life. And later on this week, we've got this coming as well, Sarah. Get your mug filled up.
Got my mug,
get it ready. Get it off the washing up, because Type 40 Live's back in a few days' time. So Type 40 Live Thursdays from 8 p.m. here on the Type 40 channel on YouTube and Rumble and everywhere else that we stream to, completely live, completely raw, where anything can happen, anything can be said, Sarah, and often is. That tends to be how it goes, isn't it?
He really is. For better, for worse.
Oh, what have we? I can't believe we're back. I can't believe they're still let's get away with this. But yes,
Yeah.
we will indeed be back because there's so much to talk about. All for Doctor Who's 60th anniversary year. Those specials are coming up in just a couple of months' time. We're ready. Our wits and our pencils are sharpened. I can't wait to get together with everybody there at Type 40 Live and talk about it. So make sure you're here to add your comments in the comment section and get involved. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much for your company on this one and for telling us all, for filling in the blanks there with us, for those of us who didn't know so much about Stuart Glazebrook here. And we're counting the hours now until we get our eyes on this latest ebook there. We know you're not going to let us down or Stuart down, John. And yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be fitting, and it's going to open up some memories, I think, for a lot of people out there of a really golden time and a very particular breed of a fan that, yeah, if they're not worth celebrating, quite frankly, who isn't? So yes, thank you for your company, Ian Taylor, Kevin Taylor, John Collier, mate. It's always good to see you as well. Hope you'll come back when you've got something else to show us, to tempt us with.
I'd love to, and thanks for inviting me onto this one with the gents. It's great.
Fantastic stuff. Okay, yeah, this is what it's called. Yes, one last time, a Blackpool Remembered special for Stuart Glazebrook. Links are in the description. Let us know what you think of it in the comments section when you get it into your life. And that's it for another Type 40 Extra. We'll see you all again soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.